Next subject is how am I finding Red Dead Redemption 2? Because a few people have been asking me questions about that. And I got to tell you, overall, I am loving Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a superb game, really atmospheric. It looks gorgeous on my system. It behaves really well. But I have noticed a few people sort of trying to get ahead of things, probably thinking I've only played one or two episodes, and they're coming out and they're going, okay, Gopher, right, you're gonna find this, right? Don't worry about it, or you're gonna be a bit annoyed by X. Try to work through it. The game's brilliant in spite of it, right? Because there are some minor flaws with Red Dead Redemption 2 on PC. There are, and I just want people to know I've gotten through more or less every one of them, or I've found ways to make it work for me. Okay, it is still a superb game, even with all of the little niggles. If I was to describe this game, I would say it's got the feeling I had in Kingdom Come Deliverance. You know, with all the little mechanics. Do you remember that? You remember all the different mechanics in Kingdom Come Deliverance? There's so many of them, it feels very involved. Red Dead Redemption 2 is like that. There's so much going on. In fact, there are so many different game mechanics going on, it can actually be overwhelming. But the great thing is, none of the individual gameplay mechanics themselves are overwhelming, so you can sort of learn one of them at a time. And what's really weird about this game, not weird, but what's really unusual about this game is you tend to be learning new mechanics quite far into the game when compared to other games. And it usually does a sort of a tutorially kind of a thing that gets you into it. So there's loads of these mechanics, but it's also got like an amazing atmosphere and vibe, and the locales are really nice. The weather, it's got a kind of Metro vibe to me, Metro Exodus, with some of the different areas feeling really nice. But it also has kind of Witcher 3 level storytelling. So it's all round, it's a great experience. Yeah, the snow was really well done. Really, really well done. But yeah, there are these weird moments. There are these weird moments when you stop and you look and you see the details. You will see details. I'm not even going to spoil it for you. I'm not even going to spoil it for you, but there'll be, you will see animals interact with each other, fighting. But in a really, really, really sort of cool way. So it is brilliant. There are lots of little niggles, though. There are lots of little niggles. Most of them are pretty minor. Most of them are pretty minor. For example, the first niggle I came across was there is this weird audio crackle. And it's really annoying. And it happens when there's music or voice lines. Not on sound effects, but voice lines and music. And it's this weird, like sharp crackle in the background. And sometimes it could be really bad, sometimes it's not so bad. And you'll probably hear it in, I think, episode 3. It's fairly constant in episode 3. And it was a real problem for me. And I mean, I basically spent probably the better part of 2 days on Google trying to find fixes for it. And I probably tried, like 500 different things by design. Oh, no, it's not by design. It sounds awful. It sounds not awful, but in episode 3, you're going to hear it. Fortunately, I get on top of it, and I don't think there are many instances after episode 3, but you'll hear it every now and again when they're talking. This strange crackle. You thought your headphones broke. A lot of people do. Luckily, well, I say luckily, it's not your headphones. It's not even your system, because there are a lot of people who get problems like this for that game. And the solutions vary. for me, I found the only surefire way to, fix it. The best way to probably fix it is every time I boot my machine up, I have to go along to all of my different sound devices and change them, like change it from, 24-bit, 48,000 kilohertz to 24-bit, 44,000 kilohertz, something like that. And I have to change all of them. So I have to change 3 different sound sources. I then need to go into voice meter and reinitialize it. And then if I start the game, there's like a 50-50 chance the sound crackle will gone. If I don't do any of that, the sound crackles will always be there. But if I reinitialize all the sound drivers and start the game and then boot it up, it then usually does without a problem. So I have to do that every time I boot the game. And there have been moments, usually when Windows has made some sort of update. I've noticed that as well. So however they're doing sound in this game is a little odd. And I basically ended up just coming up with this routine, this technique. But there's been a few times when I've lost like 2 hours. 2 hours just starting the game over and over and over and over and over until it comes crackle free. And I'll know it's crackle free just by the music. But now I've got it usually, unless there's been some weird issue, I can normally get the game up and running within 5 minutes. So, but it's a really odd one. It is a really odd one. It's minor in that I can fix it. It's not minor the amount of time it's wasted for me. So, but again, like I said, brilliant game, and something like that isn't going to stop me from enjoying it. It has a hell of a loading time, though. It's a fairly big loading time, actually. And one other thing that's really annoying about the loading is if you start the game and you go into story mode, it loads the last save. There's no option to load game at a certain point. Because one of the things I've noticed with the game is you can save the game and then you can load it and it'll load an auto save instead of and I always like to pick the save. Even if I think it's picked the save, I want to specify it. But you have to load into game first. You have to load into game, then go and pick the save you want to load. Just my control freak paranoia kicking in there. They should not do that. Pope Peaches, thank you very much. Be lucky you went through playing on launch, crashed every 30 minutes. Oh yeah, I'm sure it was worse back then, but the second little niggle, I guess, is the first person cover mechanic. You're going to notice this in quite a lot in the first few episodes, and even every now and again there are some missions where taking cover is a kind of essential thing, and I hate taking cover in first person because it's flaky as hell. It is. In third person, the cover mechanic works perfectly. You take cover, you press aim, you pop over, you shoot, right? In first person, you get into cover and you press aim and it kind of lifts the gun like nope. You're pointing at something like you can't aim over it or something. It's really, and you've got to move around a bit, jiggle about, or you think to yourself, am I in cover? Oh, well, I'm not aiming. I'm hitting the aim button, but I'm not aiming. So I must be in cover. Something's preventing me. And it doesn't feel very well play tested for first person. So, gotta be honest, the cover mechanic is borderline annoying. The few times I use it are where I'm forced to be very static. I can't sidestep behind a tree. I can't stay behind a rock and use manual loading. Or if there are other people near me and I don't want them shooting me in the head type thing. So I do use it, but even then it's frustrating. There are going to be some moments in firefights where you're going to be hearing me going, why can't I aim? Why can't I aim? And you might be thinking, have you tried pressing the aim button? And the answer to your question is, yes, I have. So it's a bit weird. Now, it's only a minor issue because honestly, the cover mechanic is not that essential for 99% of the game. Most of the battles, you could just use a tree, stand near a tree, step out, shoot, or stay behind a rock, crouch. Don't use the mechanic, just crouch, pop up, shoot. And especially later on, you will rely on Deadeye. way more. It's not an FPS game. Although...
Welcome, minion.
Whoa! Zoldfrog, Kermit, thank you very much for the gifted subs. Thank you very much. So yeah, no, but like it's not really a first-person shooter game. It's not supposed to be, but the shooting mechanics are actually solid enough. I actually enjoy them. I enjoy, shooting people with rifles or pistols. The Deadeye works great. Overall, I'm enjoying the combat. It's just the cover mechanic it's frustrating, but it's always frustrating at the moments you least want to be frustrated, i.e. middle of combat. If you hear me getting a bit frustrated with first-person shooting in cover, know that isn't a problem later on in the game, and also know that whilst I may sound initially a little infuriated, that's just me. That's my nature when I'm in the heat of battle and something... If I'm in the heat of battle and I stub my toe, I'm going to scream bloody murder at my own toe. That's, it's like, rah! Sort of thing. Don't worry about it. It is a minor issue. And honestly, the game has a difficulty setting? I don't think it does. No, it doesn't. It's not a difficult game. It's not a difficult game at all. Does it have a difficulty setting? I don't know. If it does, I don't know whether I even noticed or selected one. If it's not the sort of game that starts where you pick one, is it? Because if he did, I would have picked the hardest one probably. It's just my nature. It doesn't. I didn't think it did. So yeah. Oh, I tell you another thing. First person, leading your horse in first person is weird. It feels like you're drunk. First person leading your horse, no. The few times I lead my horse, I switch to third person. I've got it set up so that I always go third person when riding a horse or riding a cart, because it just feels better. That's fairly normal in a lot of games, to be honest. The only game I ever remember playing first person horse would be Kingdom Come Deliverance, and that's because you had to. And it worked okay there. I'm not sure it would work in Red Dead Redemption 2. So I've got it set for third person on horse, but again, it's a minor niggle because overall it didn't affect me too much. It is, but there is a clumsiness to the first person on certain of the mechanics. But again, Snake Doctor, I think Red Dead Redemption 2 might cure your looting when you have to pick up every object individually, like in KCD. Yeah. Oh, well, actually, believe it or not, that kind of brings us neatly onto my third niggle. Right? It's kind of related to the looting issue, but I actually quite like the looting. I like the Kingdom Come Deliverance Red Dead Redemption looting system where you see yourself pick it up with your hand and it's kind of slow. It stops that ninja looting that we all do in Skyrim and Cyberpunk, where we kill a body and as he's falling, we loot everything, including his armor, his weapons, his teeth, things he's got stuffed in his belt. We take off his boots, we get it all in our backpack in like 0.10 seconds. I like this sort of, it takes a bit of time. However, the looting in Red Dead Redemption 2 initially tired me because I had to get used to the user interface. That's my third niggle with this game. My third niggle with the game is the strange user interface. They've got this obsession with having everything on the outside. Zervina says Red Dead Redemption follows the same logic as GTA, which is don't play in first person. They added it for immersion, but it's so clumsy and clunky and coupled with an already weird movement of the character, it can cause major raging at moments. Well, don't worry. My general play, it's all first person. And generally, to me, it plays very little... there's very little difference between playing it in first person, playing this game in first person and say playing Skyrim, except you just walk a bit slower, or any other first person game for that matter. There are just some clumsy moments. But I tell you what, I love playing first person, partly for my Let's Plays as well. When first person gives me so much better ability to control, I can express myself so much better in first person. Because you get this feeling of where I'm staring, shall we say. or who I'm looking at, etc. So it's a way better feeling. But I've got to tell you, I love the first person in this game because there's so many details and you get really close up to it. So I like it. However, third issue, UI. Everything on the game has in the user interface seems to be around the outside. So like top left, bottom right, that sort of thing. And that's fairly standard in most heads-up displays. And it's there to get it out of the way. And I'm a big fan of that. Get it out of the way. Yeah, get it out of the way. Big fan. Except we all know, even games that do that often have things brought closer to the center of the screen. Classic example of that is when you look at a door, the thing that tells you can open it usually appears somewhat below the center of the screen, right? Near to the cursor. When you're going to loot something, you look at some loot and you see the prompt and you also see the name of what it is pretty much right below the cursor so that you're looking at the object and you're seeing the prompt. In Red Dead Redemption 2, you look at, say, a tin that you want to pick up, and then you have to look all the way down at the bottom right to see what it is you're looking at and what your options are. And if there's 2 or 3 things there, you then have to press the Q to rotate between them. And then once you've got it and you press the button, then you look back to the center of the screen. This doesn't sound like that big a deal, but it's really tiring and really stressful. And it breaks the flow up. I'm constantly wandering around. I look at a plant. I can see I can activate it because a thing pops up. And I look down and go, oh, it's mint. I will pick that up. And then I look back and it's really, really very odd, very tiring. And it slows the looting process down. Now, this is not a spoiler, but it's spoiler-ish. Looting is less it's less of a thing in this game than in other games, shall we say. In a way, the game's quite realistic in that it really doesn't want you to stop and loot every single solitary dead body that you see, especially if you've had a battle and you've got to get out of there. It really does. The game kind of stresses you, and a lot of people are going to hate that, but in a way, it kind of makes sense. It also, again, I don't want to spoil things, but honestly, scavenging is not the best way to become well off in this game. So it doesn't end up being that big of a deal. But obviously at the start of the game, when you're poor, you do a lot of looting. And this was weird because I was constantly having to stop and look away. Now, I think this is because the game was designed to be played on a console, on a TV, and you're supposed to be sat on a sofa on the other side of the room. And if you're playing like that, it's probably a lot easier to see what's at the bottom left, bottom right or the top left, than it is when you're on a screen on a PC and it's, you can flick the screen. When you can touch the screen, it's just so much more movement you have to do, yeah? So I think a lot of it comes down to it worked well on a TV couch setup. Oh, it's still annoying on the TV. The worst thing is not actually looting, though. The one thing that really got me were the tutorial messages. And again, it's one of these things. I get it. They wanted it out of the way. But very often, you get these little messages that pop up that tell you what you're supposed to do or give you some advice. And they'll be 2 or 3 sentences long and they'll appear in the top left of the screen. The problem is, they'll happen when something is going on right at the center of the screen. Something bloody important. And the thing is it defies human anatomy to expect your eyes to go up and go, okay, if you press the space button while holding the right mouse button and then toggle the R and tap the F very, very quick, while there's a guy trying to smash you in the face with a knife or something, you know what I mean? Like, Your eyes want to keep looking at whatever's going on. And this even happened in fishing. I'm fishing, and I'm like, I got a fish. And then a message would pop up, and I'm like, what? And it's like, you can alter the space. No, leave me alone. I've got to. And like, I'm trying to read the message, but I'm also trying to keep my eye on the fish. And it doesn't work because the two things are too far from each other. So every time I try to look up and read it, I get like halfway through the first sentence, and my eyes whip down. They are forced to whip down because, of course, we're biologically built to look at stuff that's going on way more than stuff that's stationary. It's one of the reasons when you're trying to learn to speed read, they actually recommend you use your finger. Believe it or not, speed readers use a pointer or their finger quite often because they can read so much faster because the eye will naturally track the finger. It will naturally track the finger. It wants to track something that's moving. So yeah, so that little thing there, there's been a few times you will hear me, there'll be a battle going on and it'll say, do this, do that. And I'll be like, okay, I've got, where? And I'm running around a bit like a headless chicken. You have no idea how fist fighting works. You just spam F. Is there more to it? There is a little bit. Yeah, there's some timing involved. You can block. There is also choking and other things, but honestly, basically block and hit. So yeah, just things like that, little niggles, but you get used to it because, of course, you do learn the mechanics after a while. Although there've been a few times where I've been taught a mechanic, but I was so stressed by the tutorial that I've actually gone back and watched the video. Like, I've edited the video and I'm watching it and I'm going, right, wait a minute. Okay, what was the thing about Deadeye again? Because the Deadeye thing seems remarkably similar to the hunting, tracking sense thing, but it's not quite the same. And it's like, oh, you've got to aim first and then hit it. Then it does Deadeye, not tracking. Got it. There's lots of little things like that where I'm actually, when I'm editing the video, I'm reading the tutorials and actually absorbing the information so much better than when I was playing. So, yeah. Is there a brief in the pause menu? Don't know. Can you disable automatic targeting with Deadeye? I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm going to spoil it for you. It happens. Just wait. Okay? I didn't like the automatic aiming with Deadeye as well. The game, it seems to introduce you to the basic mechanics and then give you some more advanced mechanics later on. Thank you, Snake Doctor. But if you don't have tutorials, you end up as you did with Henry fighting Kanesh in KCD with no idea what the hell to do. Yeah, the problem is if the tutorials don't actually... If the tutorials are not well done, you end up frustrated and still no idea what to do. But I honestly don't really mind too much. In Kingdom Come Deliverance, when I got beaten up by Kanesh, to be honest with you, I think it's almost scripted that way. I've done second playthroughs where I lose to Kanesh because you can't dodge and you can't block. The game will not let you dodge or block when you fight Kanesh. Unless you get it to glitch. There are ways of getting it glitching, but you can't do it. You're not supposed to be able to do things like that. And it's deliberate. It's deliberate to make you suck at the game. So, but yeah. Console games with the auto aiming again. No, will draw. The Deadeye auto aim is well. I don't want to ruin too much about it. The Deadeye is like a bullet time. It's a way to line up shots. It's really well done, actually. I quite like it. It makes you feel like a badass gunslinger. It's kind of cool. Honestly, all of those little niggles that I just gave you, again, very, very minor. They're the sort of things where I can sort of... I can forgive. I really can. I'm very forgiving of these things because I know like, for example, the UI, everything off to the side. I know why they did it. They wanted to get it out of the way, and I applaud them for that. I actually think when you're looking at an object, it's better if the prompts appear on the object right at the center. And the same is true when you're looking at someone, as annoying as that may seem. Now, you do get used to the keys. You end up having a good sense of, oh, I'm going to greet you. Oh, no, I'm going to be aggressive against you. Oh, I'm going to pick this up. You know, you get a better sense of it, and it becomes natural. So it doesn't ruin the game. These are niggles, real niggles. There is one thing that has me scratching my head. I guess this would be my fourth niggle, would it? Fourth? Yeah. The save system is insane. I don't understand narrative-driven games where there is a linear sense of progression, time, so to speak, you know, where you have a story that starts and ends, not having a decent save system. Because there are times the save system in this game feels a bit like a respawn system. Almost, you know, it's difficult to explain. You know, in most games, when you save, like in most games, narrative-driven games, when you save, it saves everything about you. Where you are, what you were doing, you know. Like, so if you're in the middle of a building and there's 10 dead people around you and you save the game, you load the game expecting to be back in the building with 10 dead people around you. Now, some games get rid of the 10 bodies because they're doing optimization. So you load back in and all the bodies have disappeared and maybe their loot's still there, or maybe you've lost the loot. So some games do that, and it's kind of annoying, right? When games do that. Generally speaking, you want everything to be where it was when you quit, right? Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't. It saves your mission progress. Sort of. But you can't save in the middle of a mission, by the way, even if the mission's quite long. Even if one step of the mission is ride from here 10 minutes to a town and sell X, you can't save the mission at that point. You got to ride to town and save the thing, sell the thing, and then you can save it, right? So it doesn't do that. It also doesn't, like, for example, if you save and you were in the middle of stopping an encounter, when you reload, that encounter will have just gone. No matter, even if you hadn't resolved it, it will have gone. It doesn't save the state of that. So let's just say you're creeping along and you see a bandit or doing something, and you save and come back. Sorry, you save and reload. Bandit won't be there, right? But here's the weirder thing. I'm just using that as an example, by the way, because I don't want to give too much away. Here's the weirder thing. You might not be where you saved. You might be in the shop and you save, and you load, now you're outside a church. Or you save and you're out hunting in a tree and you reload and you're back at your camp. Because it seems to have these weird, like, spawn points. And even more bizarre is sometimes your respawn point is a place you've never been before. Think about that for a second. You can save, you can load, and you can think, where the hell am I? And check your map, and everything around you is greyed out because you've never been there. The entire map's greyed out around you. You're like, what? How did I get here? So, I don't quite get that. So yeah, what I found with the game is I tend not to save unless I'm in a town or I'm at camp. Which means I do have to be very careful about my play sessions. So if I've got half an hour left before the kids come home, I can't play for half an hour. Because I don't know for sure that I'm going to be able to play and get to a point where I can save, knowing that I will be able to return tomorrow and carry on. And of course, not only is that annoying for me, it would be even worse in a Let's Play. If I've got a Let's Play and I'm in the middle of doing something, and then the next episode starts with me somewhere completely different, you're going to be going, how did you get there? And I've reloaded. It's Yeah. So, well, Arthur plays himself when nobody is looking. Pyro Dev, I actually got that feeling. There were times when I thought, wait, is it done something? Has time passed? Because sometimes time passes as well. I think when you save it, it reloads, but a few minutes later or something like that, and time passes quite quickly. But whatever. The point is there were several moments where I just found myself utterly baffled. It's a mechanic from GTA 5. Don't know about 4 or before. It's supposed to simulate your character as a life when you don't control them and you return the character is done with some activity you did not see. I don't like it then. I got to admit, I don't like it because it's like I get to a shop and I sell some stuff and oh right, okay, I got to go make dinner. I want to save the game, close the game, make dinner and come back a few hours later, load and carry on. But what I have to do now is I have to actually leave the game on pause. Now I do that sometimes with games anyway. I just don't like being forced to do it, so I have to leave the game on. And if I get to the end of the day, my kids come home and I'm in a really important point and I'm thinking, no, if I save here and it brings me somewhere else or it won't even let me save, I have to leave the game on, paused, all night. And I do not like it. I do not like it at all. Not a big fan of. But, again, I've gotten used to it and I'm working around it. I'm working around it. I just sort of, I wish it wasn't something I had to work around, if that makes sense. It made sense in GTA 5 because there were 3 characters, so you would think the other 2 were doing something while you were playing this one. However, it doesn't make sense in Red Dead Redemption 2. It might not. But of course, it's annoying as a player who likes to make a coherent narrative for the character, but it's even more annoying when you're a Let's Player. So, but again, I got used to it. There is a few moments where you will see it actually happen. I'm not going to spoil it. It might actually only be one moment. I managed to remove one. There was one entire encounter where, there was this one encounter, didn't go well. Reload, miles away, somewhere I'd never been before. And I just had to travel back. And because nothing happened from that point, nothing actually happened. And when I got back to that point, the thing that I was doing had gone. I just sort of decided to skip it from the video because it was just too weird, and the only way for me to explain it was to actually either leave all the footage of me wandering through a strange land thinking, how the hell did I get here? Or me just going, oh, the game's got a respawn system in the middle of a Let's Play, which just felt odd. So I just cut it out. So it's just little things like that. I know it's a minor issue. I know it's that sort of thing where it's like, but it's aggravating, as Squeaky Rabbit said. Yeah, so that's it. It's basically just small niggles, but they're not ruining the game for me. And they got key binds right, okay? They managed the key rebinds perfectly fine. The game has a very odd control system, but then so did Kingdom Come Deliverance. But all of the keys are rebindable. I played the first 2 episodes using my Razer Chrome Orber Weaver thingy, using WASD keys, and it was okay. It was okay. And then once I got to a place where I could sort of move around and just test the different screens, I rebound the keys, and it worked. There are a lot of them, but no problems. So bravo! I can't believe I'm actually doing this. I'm applauding a developer for getting key rebinds right. Like that's a difficult thing. 10 out of 10 game already. That's the thing. Like I said, all of the things that I've mentioned to you, the first 3 things, like the audio glitch, I'm not that annoyed by that because I do realize when you're making a PC game, you're trying to make stuff for a variety of different hardware. And obviously these guys aren't primarily PC games. I get it that maybe that's actually a little harder. Maybe there's some technical issues there. All right. First person cover. They've added first person, but they didn't quite get it right. All right. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to get it right, but it's also probably a little harder than I might think. The UI, it's a design choice. I'm not totally sure I like it, but all right, I understand it. The save thing, that has me scratching my head. That has me scratching my head because I'm like, I don't get it. Why don't you just save where I am and have me appear where I am? Why? That has me scratching my head. Same way as key rebinds. When a developer fails at key rebinds, it has me scratching my head because I'm like, I don't get it. How do you fail at key rebinds? You can't fail at rebinds unless you sort of try hard to fail at it. I don't understand how you do it. So it's kind of like that. So of all the niggles, that's probably the one that's irked me the most. Isn't it a controller game? No, it's a standard PC game. So yeah. What next? Sliders that do slide. So yeah, I mean, but overall, like I said though, loving the game. If you do a hard save, Gopher, does it respawn you in a different place? Yes. You thought it was only autosaves that did that. Nope. Hard saves. There are a limited number of spawn points. And I'm using that word spawn points because that's how it feels. Feels like a respawn, not a save. So yeah. But as I said though, little things, I love to complain about them. I love to give game developers grief for this, and I always do. Doesn't matter what the game is. There's very few games that get it perfect. If you remember Metro 2033 Ranger Hardcore mode, one of my favorite games ever, and I criticised the way they handled the lack of UI. Right? Go back and see that video if you want to know the details of that. And there were people who got offended by it, actually. Yeah, you can't complain about this or that. Yes, I can. And I loved that game. I adored that game and I complained about it because it deserved it. But overall, loving the game. Really loving the game. So, yeah. You're not the character, you're just following his life is a valid game design choice, even if it strikes it as a little bit odd how much control over it you have as the player. It might be. I'm not totally sure how that applies, though. Especially seeing as very often the character, it wouldn't make sense for him to do what he did. You say the character's got a life, all right. But if the character walks into a store to sell some stuff, and then I save the game there because I got to go, and I come back and the character's gone, and he's now standing looking at something. Why didn't he finish doing what he was originally doing? It just, I don't know. I'm not saying it's not a valid thing, I guess, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, no. Sorry.